Why, yes, it is. Sex is a funny word. Jen Elledge here, sexual health expert and founder of the Talk Institute, here to help you talk to your kids about sex and growing up. Here with another book review. This book is very different than most puberty books that I've seen, which at first confused me, but then as I got into the book, it captivated me, and it actually was what made this book kind of stand out. There's a lot of unique things that this book does that you might be looking for to teach your children, okay? So Corey Silverberg is the author, and Fiona Smith are the illustrators and authors of this book. What's great is the illustrations are very inclusive of everybody. Like even the pictures have, you know, different color skins like green and purple and stuff. So really this could represent anyone. And I think if there's anything that this book does really well is it does its best to be inclusive of every single thing you could think of, like race, we're talking about disability, gender, sexual orientation, everything. It's very careful in its imagery and in its text to make sure it's sensitive to all of that. Okay, so it starts out like a comic, so it's a very different kind of book. And this book asks more questions than it actually gives answers. And I know that sounds different, so let me show you some more, okay? So the kids are at school, they're talking about what is sex, and these are the topics here. These are all the topics of the book. You're gonna see what is sex, learning about bodies, boys, girls, all of us. There's a section on touch, crushes, love, and relationships, and talking about sex. So that's kind of the table of contents there. Okay, so you can see here you have a boy with the arm braces. So as I was saying about disability, that's included in here too. So anyways, the things that stood out to me in this book was actually towards like the middle and the end, okay? So it likes to talk about what's the same about bodies and then what's different. So it talks about nipples and breasts, and even in the pictures you can see, I don't know if you can tell there's different size breasts and lopsided ones and ones that are pointy and ones that invert, right? It talks about bottoms, how they're the same. And then here's the body parts. So some bodies have a vulva and some bodies don't. So it doesn't say girls have a vulva and a clitoris and a vagina. So that's what I was talking about, how it's inclusive of all genders, so non-binary stuff as well. So if you're looking for that, this is a great book for that, okay? All right, so as it goes on, gosh, I folded the pages that I liked the most. Okay, the touch section does a really good job, I felt, about talking about touch. So it starts with kind of normalizing touch and how it can sometimes make us feel good, and then sometimes it can also make us not feel good, right? It might make us scared or whatever. So some people say touch is magic. Touching someone can change the way they feel. Touch can make a hard day a bit easier, a gloomy day a bit brighter, or a lonely day a little less lonely. Then as it goes on, it says some touch can feel like hurting. Touch can turn someone from happy to sad. It can make them feel upset or angry. So it's talking about all kinds of touch. And then here's what some of the questions are. Can you think of a time when you touched someone and it helped? What about a time when you touched someone and it hurt? When is touching okay and not okay? So that's what I'm saying, is it generates questions instead of like, this is what you do. So if you really want to have a discussion with your child, this is a great book to read together, okay? And then ask those questions and make sure you answer them and take turns answering them. We all feel touched differently. Only you know what you feel like when you are being touched. Everyone has times when they want to be touched and other times when they don't. Maybe you didn't want a hug at first, but then you want one after all. It's okay to ask for one, okay? So that's what the touch part talks about. And it even talks about culture. In some families and communities, hugging and kissing is a way of saying hello, showing respect or showing love. Okay, so it kind of talks about that. Are there people in your life you don't feel comfortable hugging and touching? What could you do instead? Do you remember a time when you were expecting to touch someone but didn't want to? Okay, and it also talks about self-touch. So there's a section on masturbation in here. So you do see girl in the tub. You don't, it's nothing graphic, but you know, it's enough that you can talk about the touching part. And it talks about how we might touch your whole body anywhere, like you might scratch your back and, you know, tickle your feet, right? And then it talks about grown-ups. It says, we touch ourselves all the time in all kinds of places for all kinds of reasons. Touching yourself is one way to learn about yourself, your body, and your feelings. You may have discovered that touching some parts of your body, especially the middle parts, can make you feel warm and tingly. Grown-ups call this kind of touch masturbation. Masturbation is when we touch ourselves, usually our middle parts, to get that warm and tingly feeling. And it talks about every family and community has its own ideas about masturbation. When you were younger, you may have discovered that it felt good to touch yourself. You may have done this even when you weren't alone. As you get older, grown-ups expect that if you want to touch yourself to feel good, especially your middle parts, you'll do it when you're in a private place. You may find that you want some privacy too. Okay, so very simple explanation, but you know, there's families that have to, I mean, we all need to think about how we're gonna address this. So in your life, this might be an easy way to kind of talk about it and bring it up. Have you heard other people use the word masturbation or talk about touching themselves to feel good? Do you know if there are rules in your family about this? If there are rules, do they make sense to you, right? And then it talks about secret touching. So this is a great part that talks about if someone tries to wants you to keep a secret, that they're usually saying that because they know that what they're doing is wrong and they shouldn't be doing that. So this is a great part on sexual abuse right here. Okay, another part that I thought was great was, okay, helpful, hurtful. Some people think there are two kinds of words, good words and bad words. A different way to think about it is that words are not good or bad. Words can be helpful and words can be hurtful. A word is helpful or hurtful depending on how we use it. It also matters how the word feels to the person we are talking with. So this is the section that kind of talks about, is sex a bad word? So some grown-ups say you should never talk about sex, especially when you're young. Not everyone feels safe or able to talk about it. Talking about sex can make some people feel uncomfortable or angry, but sex isn't a bad word. It can feel strange to talk about it if it's something you're not used to talking about, but strange doesn't mean it's bad or good. We can ask questions and talk about sex in ways that help and in ways that hurt. Do you know what they mean? Have you heard any sex words? If you have questions about what sex words mean, who could you ask? Okay, so it's just an interesting book. It talks about sexy in here too, what that means and how people use that, crushes and relationships. And the crush part is actually really cute. It talks about, like, you might have a crush on someone you've never met, and you know, just normalizing crushes. And it's normal to not have a crush too. Sometimes that happens and kids think something's wrong with them because they don't have a crush. So it's an interesting book. It's different. This is different. If you want to check this out in your local library, go through it and see if it's something that is in line with your family values. This is a very, like I said before, it's very careful to be completely inclusive. And if you want to make sure that that's how your child learns about sex, this is a great way to do that. As far as age goes, I don't know. I don't think I saw what age they recommended this book for, but I'm going to say like 8 or 9. Yeah, maybe 8 through 10. I'd say about 8 through 10, because there's a lot of issues that they're talking about. Maybe 7 through 10, something like that, okay? So I hope that's helpful. Again, Jen Elledge here, sexual health expert and founder of the Talk Institute. Thank you for tuning into this book review, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.